With our every step, we will shine the light. Together we'll rise, and together we'll fight. We will find the truth with cooking and crime.
Welcome. This is part 1 of a 3-part interview with me, Tracey D. Ellis. In this series, I'll answer questions about my background, my work, and the cases that have shaped my journey. And in part 3, we'll head into the kitchen to make chocolate chip cookies with pancake mix, and I'll share the recipe with you. I'm so glad you're here. Let's get started. Today we're sitting down with author, investigative journalist, advocate, and content creator Tracey D. Ellis.
Hello, 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 my sweet peas.
Her work has taken her from missing person advocacy and search and rescue training to true crime investigations, books, podcasts, television, and the creation of justice warriors. But behind the credentials is a woman whose interest in justice began long before social media, podcasts, or YouTube. Tracey, thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you, Tracey, for being here. I appreciate you.
For viewers meeting you for the first time, who is Tracey D. Ellis? Where did your interest in crime, justice, and missing person cases begin?
I am very drawn towards true crime. I really don't deal in anything other than unalivings or murders, as we like to call them in the business. I kind of am a comedic relief. Wow. First I'll go back even further. I remember sitting on the couch next to my mother, scooshed up right up to my mother, almost behind her. I was so attached. Watching Columbo. And she watched McCloud and Rockford Files. She watched all those shows. So obviously she was interested too. And then my father was a police officer. My aunt's husband was a police officer and a deputy, and then later a special deputy. My uncle on my father's side was also a deputy, and my great-grandfather on my mother's side was a police chief and fire chief. My brother is in the fire department, and my cousin on my mother's side he was with the emergency services too. I did have a niece that was in the Explorers, and I'm trying to remember. I don't want to leave anyone out. However, we were also all brought up as being wives and children of those that when a hurricane or an emergency happened, there we were there, we could fend for ourselves and help others. And that's just what we're about.
Was there a particular event that made this work feel like a calling for you?
It wasn't really the feeling of a calling as far as it was a fear that I was trying to alleviate. And that was when my cousin on my paternal side was away at Florida State University. She was there at the same time some murders happened near her dorm. And it turned out she was near the Chi Omega, which turned out to be Ted Bundy. So in my mind, I wanted to be able to rectify that in my mind and make sure that I was never the victim of a serial killer. So in high school, I took psychology and I studied serial killers. And that's where it started, with serial killers.
What is your educational background, and how has it helped you understand the cases you cover?
Okay, my educational background. It started as a child. It started watching those TV shows. It started as being listening to the radio, the police radio, all night long as you fall asleep, and knowing that your family was going to work to get the bad guys. And then from there, high school, it was psychology. And then I became involved in college. I took psychology, and I have a bachelor's in psychology as well as a associate's in business. And during those times, I took CGI classes. CGI standing for Criminal Justice Investigation class.
You also completed training outside of college. What kinds of investigative and criminal justice courses have you taken?
As I did research for a book that I was writing, the Holly Bobo Trial Guide, about a missing nursing student who was later found murdered, there was a young lady there who I met and took up with, kind of like-minded as far as taking up with. We talked a lot on the phone, and her name was Heather Michelle Cohen. And after that, she talked me into becoming part of her team for HMC Investigations, which stood for Heather Michelle Cohen Investigations, HMC. And then I became a state representative, a state rep for CUE, Community United Effort, which is a missing persons organization out of North Carolina. And we would go to those conferences, and in those conferences you take I think 6 classes there, and on searching and stat and all different types of things. It's actually there that I met Drew Peterson's sister-in-law, Norma Peterson, who is married to Paul Peterson. And she taught us a class to us. And with HMC, I'm not sure it was HMC or if names had changed to Justice Warriors Investigations at that time. At that point, we also would go to, there's Nalah. She's drinking water. She's my trusty sidekick. So we would do classes through there, because as a private investigator, you have to take classes so many hours a year to keep up with your private investigation licenses in the state of Tennessee. So I've taken statement analysis classes from Mark McClish, who many people may know. I know from taking the classes, but later on he became very active in CrimeCon. So some people who go to CrimeCon may know his name, Mark McClish. He's written several books on statement analysis, and so those are some of my education items that I can think of right now.
Tell us about training Dylan as a search and rescue K9.
Oh, I'm glad you reminded me. I completely forgot about the camp that I went to for K9 SAR, search and rescue, search and recovery. I, of course, was training a cadaver dog, which is a search and recovery. At that point, I don't think there would be much rescue. However, I went and did cadaver training with my dog Dylan. He was a black lab and German Shepherd mix. He was gorgeous. And he passed away at age 5. Broke my heart. Okay, it's December 15th. The wind is, as you can hear it. And we're going past a cemetery from the 1800s. It's a family plot. Here we go. Here he goes. Come on, this way. I'm going to turn. And it took me 3 years before I would even think about getting another dog. And I finally ended up deciding one day that I needed another dog. And I started looking and thinking and looking. And I just couldn't decide. And one day, we were kind of telling this story to a lady at a farmer's market. And she said, well, I've got one you can have. And I said, really? And she gave me her card. And later on, I thought about it. Was she really serious? And I texted her and I asked if I called her. And she didn't answer the phone, I guess. She was scanning her calls. But anyway, so I texted her and then we made contact, and she said she was serious, that they had tried to multiple times rehome her, but that it didn't work out, and they didn't really feel comfortable with the other person. So then the husband said something like they were afraid they were going to have to drop her off at a place where you go take your dogs when you don't want them. So anyway, I went ahead and we met one day, and then it was a go, and then we decided on a few days later that we would have the actual handoff, and we did that, and that was in April of 2026. So we have had Nalah, being that it's August of 2026, she's wagging her tail at me. We have had Nalah April, May, June, July, August, about 4 months, and just love her. I'm so happy with her. However, Dylan passed away at age 5, upsetting, and here we are with Nalah 3 years later. So she's a little angel.
How did Justice Warriors begin, and what was the purpose behind creating it?
Well, we touched a little bit on Justice Warriors. However, I did not create Justice Warriors. Contrary to popular belief, I am a team member on the Justice Warriors. I was asked to come on board by Heather Michelle Cohen at the time. She is now Heather Michelle Z-I-E, and she is a private investigator. It was at the time the state of Nevada, Tennessee, and Kentucky. And I believe she has let some of those go, and she is focusing on a law degree now. She's in law school, and she still does investigation. And we have just continued a friendship and a business relationship since that time.
You have written several true crime books. What are your books about, and what do you hope readers learn from them?
The books I have written, number 1 was a Holly Bobo trial guide. It was just Holly Bobo case had gotten so into, like many cases do, especially with social media. There were rumors flying around which could not always be substantiated. A rumor, an unsubstantiated rumor remains a rumor. Once it's substantiated, it becomes a fact. So there were a lot of rumors or unsubstantiated facts that were swirling around in the area. So I decided to write a book that was more, that kind of said who's who and why and what it's all about. And it kind of told who was whose attorney, whose was the accused, who was who, and that's pretty much about what that is. And then the second book was co-written with Heather Michelle Cohen, and that was, and I say Cohen because that's who she was when she wrote it. That was on the case of Gary Sutton, who was a man who should never have been put on death row in the state of Tennessee. Then I wrote a book on Dr. Charles Harlan, the tragic journey of his victims. He was in forensic. He owned his own lab, and that he did autopsies in. And he had 8 counts against him. There were more, but he wasn't found guilty of those. There were 8 counts against him, and he lost his medical license, and many people who he had testified in were later exonerated. However, he did testify in the Gary Wayne Sutton case, and Gary was not exonerated, which is a wrongful act on the state of Tennessee. Then there is another called The Most Dangerous Gang, Gang, which is about those in power in the justice system who are just as dangerous as those on the street, just as dangerous. I have another book coming out, which is almost at the final stages, and that is called Getting It Right. Actually, no, I changed the name to How Do They Sleep at Night? Because that's a question so many people I hear that don't know any better say about defense attorneys and defense work. And it's very important. If you're going to get an accurate and reliable result in the justice system, you need to have a proper defense. And a victim needs to understand that those defense attorneys that are working across the aisle from them, from the prosecution, are imperative to their loved one getting justice. And then I have another one that's in my mind in the works, not on paper in the works. And it's called How Do Mermaids Breathe? And it is a book on those who do have people that are in the prison system and how they are left alone to survive the world on their own, financially, with children, if they are children. They love the person that's been incarcerated. How are these people left to navigate this world? And how do they survive just the atmosphere that's in their own hometown of growing up or looking people in the grocery store in their eye, realizing that their loved one is the person who hurt their loved one? It's not things people like to think about, but it's very important.
Your work has also included podcasts and television appearances. What were some of those experiences like? Are there particular cases you have worked on that changed you personally or professionally?
It is our duty to shine the light of truth, to bring justice to the restless souls whose lives were lost to their hands. Rise up against the evildoers of this world so that their souls may have peace. We will not surrender. We will fight. We will stand for what is right because we are the Justice Warriors.
Hello, Justice Warriors, and welcome to the Justice Warriors podcast.
Working in television and on a podcast. Luckily, I haven't done very many live podcasts. That's where it gets sticky. We can always go back and edit out names and things that are secret that aren't supposed to be out in the public yet. And we can keep those things under wrap by doing a pre-recorded podcast. Whereas a live podcast, I don't tend to really like those very much. I mean, I have done them, but they are not my cup of tea. You get involved. Your mind is working in a case.
I ended up taking the girls trick-or-treating that night, and they were constantly asking, where's their mom?
I came in and I stirred up a hornet's nest.
When you see her coming, she's always trouble.
Have any cases remained with you over the years?
Well, cases that I've worked on, yeah, two particularly. The Gary Wayne Sutton case and the Karen Swift case. Both of them, and there are more cases, but particularly those two, and then the Raquel Jackson case out of Lexington, Kentucky. Gary Wayne Sutton was in Maryville, Tennessee, and the Swift case in Dyersburg, Tennessee. I learned a lot about people who stick to a narrative and create a narrative at the very beginning and refuse to see anything else other than their own opinions and how important their opinions matter and how no one else's does, or facts matter, as long as those facts don't cross the opinions of the investigator. That's what I've learned.
Why was it important for you to create Cooking and Crime?
Cooking and Crime. I wanted to do some cases that didn't need to be solved and kind of had already been solved. I moved to Florida. I moved back home to Southwest Florida. And there was a lot of cases here that have interested me throughout my lifetime. And I wanted to dig into those a little more thoroughly. And so when needed, I'm still available at the Justice Warrior podcast, with Heather going to work to school and working as an investigator and volunteering and being a wife and mother and grandmother. It does take a lot of her time, so it's just another way for me to expand what I already started on prior to joining HMC Investigations, also known as JWI. I had already started blogging and writing things on my own. So I'm just kind of picking back up as life allows.
What makes your approach to true crime different from someone who simply follows cases online?
Number one, people who simply follow cases online, we'll come back to that in the Rebecca Park case, with TikTok, social media. Such an important aspect of that case. However, what makes me different, I believe, not necessarily me different from every other person, but I do hold a lot of knowledge, education, and experience, I think is mainly it.
Is it true that sometimes cooking really is a crime in your kitchen?
Yes, Tracy. Yes, interviewer Tracy. Cooking is a crime in my kitchen. I've had several lovely happenings occur while I was live, as a matter of fact. One was the time that I was making dehydrated beans. You know, you put the beans in the water and then you soak them for an hour or whatever. I mean, a day and whatever. You know how you do. So I opened the thing of beans, the plastic bag of dried beans. And when I went to pop open a side of the beans, it popped out of my hand and a bunch of them, half the bag went down the sink. And of course, we have a garbage disposal. So I had to sit there through the whole live. Instead of cooking and demonstrating, I had to pick beans one by one out of the garbage disposal because they're hard as rocks and there's no way for them to go down and there's no way for them to come up. Now that I think about it, I should have stuck my vacuum cleaner hose down there. What a dinghead. Anyway, I picked them out one by one. Well, I couldn't have done it on a live. It would have been too loud. So that was one. That's where we got spilling the beans from. And then we have the time, the what is that? Nalah's sticking her hand up. I'm waving my hand around. Hello, Nalah. And so another time the plug wasn't plugged in all the way, or it had gotten pulled out of the hand mixer. That's it, the hand mixer. And so I went to plug it back in, and while it was in the bowl, it started turning and turned on and flipped the bowl over, everything all over the floor. And of course, it was spinning, so I mean, everything was all over. And that happened. And then this last time, it happened with the same hand mixer. I thought I broke it because it went flying off the counter. Not because it was plugged in, but it was plugged in. It went flying across the counter, and I got sugary confection sugar glaze all over the floor, and that's when Nalah discovered she loved sugar. So yes, in my kitchen, cooking is a crime, so always stay tuned because you never know. I don't cut it out. I do not cut those things out. And if I burn the toast, I burn the toast. That's just how it goes, because you kind of can fix it in a way if you have to, or you throw it out. But anyway, I have enjoyed this, and thank you for interviewing me, smart interviewer lady Tracey.
What can viewers expect from you, Nalah, and the Cooking and Crime channel moving forward?
They can expect more of the same. They can expect me to get better at what I do. Editing is what I don't do, but I can get better at it. I have learned that I have an issue with my brain, my memory, and words coming to me. There's some type of learning disability or something going on there. And it's not getting better with age. I do have physical ailments that can cause this issue, and medications that I have to be on that can cause this issue. So I have found that I can use AI. I am able to type kind of what I want to say easier than I can speak it. My fingers can say what I need, my mouth needs to say. It just doesn't come from my brain out of my mouth. Tongue-tied, dyslexia of the mouth, whatever you want to call it. But I am able now to type it into Chat GPT. Have Chat kind of define what I'm trying to say a little better, so that I can put it into 11 Labs. And then I copy it from ChatGPT, I put it into 11 Labs, and paste it into 11 Labs, and then hit it, and it has my voice clone is on there. And so it doesn't sound exactly like me, but it sounds a lot like me. So that is really helping out a lot. Listeners will hear, this is me. And the interviewee, which is me with the green top, I will be in my natural voice, saying what my natural mouth says. Whereas the pink, the interviewer, me, is AI. So that's a really cool thing. So I'm able to do this interview with a professional interviewer with just me as the interviewee.
In part 3, we'll be making chocolate chip cookies with pancake mix. The recipe will be included in that episode.
Make sure you scan the QR code. It'll take you to my link tree and all the fun things I have there. There's a place for t-shirts. There's a place for my books and just all sorts of things that you can do. So scan that code. If you enjoyed spending a little time with us today, make sure you like and subscribe, and don't forget to turn on that bell so you never miss an episode. Nalah and I thank you so much for coming by. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.